Listen and look.
You don't have that option.
Glenn Beck, mornings at 7.
What can you do? Here's something you can do.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk, back at it again here in studio live with y'all today as we continue our mission to have live local talk radio here in the Borderland, but then also talk about the things that affect us here. And very happy to be back with you on this Valentine's Day, because don't you know, we certainly love y'all, or at least anyway, most of y'all. If you're wanting to comment, chime in, be a part of the show as we do in all the ways that we do, you're not too busy with your other plans and such there. Got a lot to talk about here today, so we'll have the phone lines open a little bit later in the show as we usually do. James Holmes, among many that were definitely well-wishing, or at the very least, no, I did not scream myself hoarse at the Super Bowl party. No, did I blow up in a train accident in Ohio, nor have I been shot down over any of the waters surrounding the United States. I just had a head cold. So that's one of the weird things about this whole situation here, is that for most people, just be like, all right, just don't talk to me today because I have a bad voice. In this case, that's the entire thing that we do. So it's a head cold. I'm on a fistful of medication, ready to fight a deity, and we're definitely back at it here today with a lot to delve into. So if anything sounds weird today, it probably sounds weirder to me, because still getting over this, not 100%, but we got to get back at it. Otherwise, y'all going to start thinking we're doing any of those other activities here. And again, appreciate the well wishes. And again, happy Valentine's Day. Of course, we had to be back today because, again, we certainly love you all. So we have James Holmes, Rick Reyes, no, not a hangover. I don't think I even drank during the Super Bowl, because it started for me really on Saturday. So y'all expecting me to see me out on that day. Apologies for that one. But again, it's topics to explore here today. We got a number of them, including a search and chase on in the city of the Crosses as of this afternoon, having started earlier this morning, actually around about 10:30. Some of the developing updates from our news partners over there at KFOX 14 about what's going on, really affecting that location. The strange circumstance of what was going on in potential witness intimidation, or just, I don't even know why, because it was a former prosecutor now accused of targeting a widow of a Walmart shooting victim, according to a letter from District Attorney Bill Hicks being reported on here late last week and into this week. And also, not usually what we get into in sports news, but it both affects our broadcast and is a significant story in its own right, as the NMSU Board of Regents basically considers the future of the men's basketball program. So a lot of people chiming in again over on the social media, and including missing some of the other commentators there. John Brazelton accusing me of rooting for the Eagles. How dare you, sir? I do believe I said it right at the end of the show on Friday that I was actually going for. So if no one wants to fact check me on this, you're welcome to. I was going for, the Chiefs, because I don't really have a preferred team in that matchup, but I had friends who were, so in support of them, I went for that. So it ended up working out. So I hope everyone had a good Super Bowl party and didn't take it nearly as hard on the chin over the weekend as I did. So a lot to get into today. We'll be doing everything as normally as possible today. I will say some of y'all sent me some homework assignments. I had to, just in order to make sure we could do the show here today, because it was a little bit dicey. We'll be focusing primarily on the local stuff here. So if any of y'all had any of those particularly national things that you're wanting me to comment on here, I've been paying as much attention as my brain will allow me at the moment, but we got lots of local stuff to talk about anyway. And yes, Friday is still coming, so just keep that in mind. A lot of other recommendations, including Flaco Jimenez saying Hornitos usually works for me. Sure, depending on what you have it working for. I'm not sure it would work out for me on this one, but also Robbie Flores, Healing Vibes, do appreciate that. So let's just dive right back into it and get to some of the major stuff going on and affecting us here in the Borderland, including those sending emails. I do appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I've managed to cobble together the voice right now. Again, I don't know if you could tell during some of the pre-recorded segments yesterday that it was a little bit croaky, but I've also got plenty of liquids within arm's reach here to keep it going. So apologies in advance for any coughing that comes up. So let's start off right with something developing as we speak here from our news partners there at KFOX 14. Police search for at least 16 people after high-speed chase in Las Cruces. So by my analysis, this I'm reading between the lines here, it looks like it may be another one of those rabbiting situations, at least what I've been referring to as rabbiting, of when there seems to be some kind of smuggling effort going underway throughout our region. Apparently, we've talked a lot about it kind of within proximity of our studios here on North Mesa, but it certainly isn't limited to just any one area, as this starting as of 10:36 at University Avenue, according to Texas DPS, with New Mexico State Police and Border Patrol assisting on it, and turned into a foot pursuit at an apartment complex there in Las Cruces. So they are currently a search underway for 16 people and the driver. Active police presence reported there by our news partners at KFOX 14. So given the agencies involved, not a whole lot of total detail going on, but again, I'm willing to call it potentially one of those, again, rabbiting situations, willing to be proven wrong if more information comes out, but it certainly seems to be in that vein. And just since we're on the subject of New Mexico, we don't usually end up commenting on sports-related things. I mean, okay, sure, we were talking about the Super Bowl here earlier, but that's a major thing that I think most people ended up experiencing themselves here. But this does end up affecting part of actually what we've been bringing to you on broadcast from, well, mostly our sister station on Fox Sports 1380, but the men's basketball team, the men's Aggies team for NMSU, their season abruptly put on indefinite hiatus. The team itself, and therefore the season canceled, coming out late Friday. So we, of course, bring you a lot of the Aggies games, both men's football and men's basketball, on our sister station, Fox Sports 1380, and we were gearing up for the game coming this Saturday, getting the broadcast ready for you all, and came out that the team had been suspended indefinitely. A little bit more detail coming out as of this week now, as there is now a closed-door meeting scheduled with the NMSU Board of Regents today to discuss personnel matters, and the agenda items include, quote, discussion on, quote, personnel matters concerning individual employees and, quote, information about individual NMSU students that could potentially identify them. So some of the background information that is being given there is that there was tasing allegations going on there. We got more detail coming out from our news partners at KFOX 14, and the board will be meeting online at 5 p.m., so we'll see if we get any details by the end of this show on what action has been taken. On the chopping block, maybe, okay, I don't think the team will go away entirely, but the future of this season seems pretty well in the books, as well as potential future seasons, but also the coach in this case, Greg Hires. I've never actually said his name out loud, so forgive me if I'm pronouncing that one wrong, but that's some of the things potentially up for discussion and, again, on the chopping block. So, upshot of that is, for those that were appreciating the coverage we're bringing you on Fox Sports 1380, that will no longer be happening, at least for this season anyway. Stay tuned for any future ones, but just kind of a big deal in its own way after there's been, honestly, more than a little bit of controversy involving NMSU teams, not necessarily on their own accord, but also the targeting. There was the shooting involving the rivalry with UNM that happened earlier last year. So just a whole lot of kerfuffle, and I wonder if any more of those expansive topics will be coming out of this, as we also have Bernadette Bandicole and Sean Gardner chiming in with us. Appreciate, again, the well wishes, and Bernadette Bandicole saying specifically the Super Bowl is a pseudo holiday. There have been a few bills, at the very least in Texas, that I'm aware of that have been floated through the state legislature during the legislative sessions that have had no real, I guess, serious consideration. They've gotten some popular recognition of them, but to make the Monday after the Super Bowl at the very least a state holiday, if not federal, I don't know if that one's actually moving forth. Of course, you can't do that from the state one, but let's just say I did unfortunately contribute to the most called out day of the year being the Monday after the Super Bowl, though, again, mine wasn't for some of those regular reasons. Stand by that. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that first break of this hour right now. Again, we are back at it live in the studio, trying to do all the things that we usually do. And Monica Cervantes, some responses among others. So let's go ahead and take that first break of this hour right now. You are, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone calls a little bit later in the hour, as we usually do, and comments still going on throughout all of the social media that we have up. So in any case, back with all of that after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
The exit ramp is blocked due to heavy traffic in the lower valley on Loop 375 at the Pan American Drive exit. I-10 eastbound at Cotton. That earlier crash is cleared. All lanes are open. About a 5-minute delay from Cotton to Paisano Drive eastbound through downtown. Police responding to a crash on eastbound Montana at Geronimo, and there's an accident just inside the loop eastbound Edgemere at Nolan Richardson. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West. That's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
When most people think of the Salem witch trials, they think of Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible. But the truth of what happened is a lot more complicated than Broadway. We'll have that story. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be #1 again in new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram sales in January. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings in all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months, and as always, exceptional trade-in offers.
Trade and upgrade for less during the President's Day sales event going on now at Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get 0% interest for 72 months on new 2022 quad cab Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on new 2022 crew cab Ram trucks. Get $2,000 off MSRP and 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredos. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. At Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We're buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 1.9% APR is $14.48 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Welcome to the CPAP Games live from the Hayes bedroom. It's another eventful night, Bruce.
It sure is, Ron. Steve has been struggling with his CPAP.
His wife, Michelle, is trying to contain her rage.
Michelle throws an elbow.
She's leaving for the couch.
Steve should get Inspire.
Absolutely, Bruce. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that gives you comfortable, restful sleep with the click of a remote. There's no mask and no hose. Just sleep.
Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
It's Jesse Kelly here. I can't afford to lose 30% of my 401k or IRA again, and I'm assuming you can't either. Call Oxford Gold. Securing your IRA or 401k with real gold and silver is a portfolio protection plan, and Oxford Gold has made it easy as 1, 2, 3. One app, one call, and you pick your precious metals. That's it. You now own precious metals. Call Oxford Gold today to learn more about the 1, 2, 3 protection plan. 833-404-GOLD. 833-404-GOLD.
In 2007, Marine First Lieutenant Travis Manion was killed in Iraq after saving his wounded teammates. Travis's legacy lives on through the words he spoke before his final deployment. If not me, then who? Words that today fuel the spirit of Travis Manion Foundation. And through TMF, these words can live in you too. Show the world what you're made of, because character is invisible until it's not. Find out how you can strengthen the character of your community alongside empowered veterans, families of the fallen, and inspired civilians at travismanion.org.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
makes driving more difficult.
This is dangerous. Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device,
It would be impossible.
unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed. Shouldn't we listen? They're hungry.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, where most of the comments end up coming in, including Rick Reyes saying, sorry for your Aggies, Frankie. Again, I mean, there's some decisions to be made. I don't think the team will, be disbanded or anything, but the rest of the season seems pretty well kaput. But, I mean, there's possibilities, and I wouldn't be taking any bets on the longevity of the coach at this point in time, but more decisions to be made there. And Monica Cervantes, worth 3 yikes, or at least corrections for them here, saying, just got back to Cruces today and just in time for more crime, and looks like the emojis don't show up well on my screen for some reason, but looks like an angry and strained face and just unhappy there, as well as Willie Jenkins laughing out loud at some of these situations we were talking about there, as well as Sean Gardner. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in and for the well wishes. Again, we're doing our level best to keep the wheels on, and if I have to end up taking another fistful of medication before the end of the show, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, a few other things. It's not all doom and gloom, even though if there are some very, very serious things we're talking about here today. As much as there was got quite a rise out of some of y'all anyway, when it came to the Valentine's Day celebrations. A good and positive, and I think should be entirely unicky one, is that El Paso Animal Services is asking for you to consider adopting a large dog for Valentine's Day, and in doing so, they're actually going to waive adoption fees. So the Big Dogs, Bigger Hearts adoption campaign, noting that they're at a critical capacity, over 750 dogs waiting for forever homes, and they're waiving adoption fees on all dogs over 30 pounds. It'll be going on, started Monday, actually, but we're here to tell you. And it'll be going on through February 19th, and then from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then February 17th through the 19th, noon to 5 p.m. So if you have been looking for a big furry friend, or at least bigger, 30 pounds ends up being, a decent-sized dog, but we're not exactly talking your Mastiffs or Great Danes there, though could, of course, include them. Consider doing that. Of course, details over with our news partners, but you can also view them online, elpasoanimalservices.org. So if you've got room in your heart or looking to make a furry friend, a forever friend, please consider doing that today. As well as on the slightly lighter side, a question that had been raised last week because, well, it's a serious one in its own right. What's going to happen to Slurpees in the Borderland as the 7-Elevens have begun or almost finished? It seems like to me, I've been able to see a 7-Eleven still branded that way around the Borderland anywhere, as they've been doing that transition into the DK, which does not stand for Donkey Kong, as we talked about with El Paso Inc. editor Robbie Gray last week. They are going to be having these Slurpees elsewhere. They are going to be found at the Speedway stores, the previous, at least the way I think of it, invasion of rebranded or redone stores here in the area. So 7-Eleven and Speedway will share promotions and store branded products. And they'll also sell Big Gulps, Big Bite, and Big Time meals, according to El Paso Inc. there. So you won't be able to find them at 7-Eleven, as you won't be able to find a 7-Eleven in our region. But hey, there is still some way to keep your sweet tooth going. Okay, if anyone else has experienced this, let me know. We actually literally had family that came from out of town, to see us and all that kind of good stuff. But they specifically, and I do mean specifically, made sure to go to a 7-Eleven because want to say they're from the tri-state, Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa area. There just aren't 7-Elevens or Slurpees available there. So they made sure to schedule into their time when they're coming to our region to go and find a Slurpee here. Anyone else ever experienced that, or is that just my weirdness of extended family? Anyway, on to more serious things that are going on. This one came out late last week, and we were in the depths of Free for All Friday by that point. But, okay, El Paso Matters, local nonprofit reporting concern, detailing more of the strangeness is the shorthand and entirely insufficient phrase I keep using to refer to all the stuff that was kind of surrounding the departure of the previous district attorney for El Paso, Ivan Rosales. And some of the new information that's coming out is that essentially accusing a former prosecutor of targeting the widow of a Walmart shooting victim, according to a letter and some documentation from the now district attorney Bill Hicks, that the article title there from El Paso Matters, and specifically saying that Curtis Cox had apparently, just the letter, a quote directly from it, quote, then district attorney Curtis Cox sent emails and made representations on behalf of this office to various law enforcement agencies regarding Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia in early fall of 2022, and the letter sent out now saying, quote, please note that the former or current immigration status of Miss Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia is not a matter that this office should have any concern about. And as further noted by El Paso Matters there, Valdez is the widow of Alexander Gerard Hoffman Roth, German national who was living in Juarez, who was among the 23 who were killed during the Cielo Vista Walmart shootings on August 3rd, 2019. And this goes into a few other, again, strange is the best shorthand I can come up with, stories involving potential intimidation, including by a now former Vinton municipal court judge. It's honestly quite the rabbit hole to go down into in these days, and she did end up testifying on November 30th as to what the heck was going on with that office. Previous guest on the show actually had to be an attorney that was not quite ad litem, but closer than you might think otherwise, appointed by the court anyway, in order to represent these victims as part of it. So it's just a continuing strange situation there. And yeah, just an underwood having to actually represent them just makes this, and the fact that there is now more and information coming out of this, just of course, as we have had the now federal charges, the arraignment happening late last week, and the actual, plead guilty of it. We are still waiting on the federal side of things to see the sentencing part of that. That may be coming, expected maybe like June, July, middle of this year when it comes to the actual sentencing phase of that trial. Of course, death penalty is not on the table, though, given that there has been the guilty pleas, I have certain expectations about their never seeing the light of day outside of a federal institution, etc., except, of course, for what comes then from the potential for the state trial. So effectively, I'm kind of putting like certain baselines are in place when it comes to that case, that trial, that progression of it, even if there are, again, more questions, including, what will be involving Hicks's office now. District Attorney Bill Hicks was appointed by Texas Governor Greg Abbott late last year in order to determine when, how, and frankly, if is one of the biggest questions that is still remaining for me, if they're able to move forward with this prosecution, with this trial from the state level ahead of, we got some deadlines coming up, because we do have to, of course, wait for the federal to cease. It has to be done. It has to be released from federal custody into state custody for then the state trial to proceed. So that would leave at most, say, if the sentencing trial goes very quickly, it would leave at most a year and a half, not even a year and a half, better part of a year, really, to get through the trial, the state level trial, before there would be that next election for district attorney. So we've talked about that at length on this program before with previous guests. So these are still some of the swirling concerns, even as the window dressing of situations around it continues to evolve. It's so weird. And the fact that it would almost be funny if it wasn't real life, but the fact that this is real life and that people were actually doing these things, intimidating, accusedly, potential witnesses and family members of the victims is, there are a lot of phrases I want to use on that, and maybe it's just my addled brain today, but probably shouldn't be using them on the radio. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more of the local situations to discuss and more of the specifics to get into, including some things coming up from the city, including, it'll be on that May election. We got more details coming out on that, as well as, another interesting El Paso Week item on El Paso's first climate chief that came out of some previous elections. So I'll talk more about that here after this break. You're, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live. Yes, we are live in studio today. And I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines a little bit later as we do. Comments still going on, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. The future of NMSU's men's basketball coach remains uncertain following hazing allegations by 3 players. The NMSU Board of Regents has scheduled a closed-door meeting for today to discuss personnel matters. NMSU decided to cancel the men's basketball season after allegations surfaced last week of a player being subjected to hazing that was sexual in nature. That unidentified player has said he does not want to press charges, but the investigation continues. KFOX 14 has obtained the arrest affidavit for the 2 people arrested in connection to a dog attack in Tornillo. Deputies arrested 45-year-old Felix Castillo and 24-year-old Deborah Castillo on Saturday. The incident happened on January 30th. During the investigation, deputies learned that a pit bull and a bulldog attacked an elderly woman and bit her several times on her face, legs, and arms. According to authorities, the dogs had been mentioned in several previous reports. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Still seen slowing in the downtown area on I-10 eastbound between Cotton and Paisano Drive. It's a 5-minute delay. The exit ramp is blocked in the lower valley off the loop, southbound 375 at Pan American Drive. An accident at Montana Avenue eastbound Geronimo. An injury accident, Zaragoza at Tierra Este slowing traffic. And a crash with injuries eastbound Montwood at Tim Foster Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Weather-warned day for our Wednesday. For tonight, wind advisory until midnight. That then becomes a high wind warning midnight all the way through 5 p.m. on Wednesday. So very windy conditions Wednesday. Could see some gusts over 60 miles per hour. Watch out for areas of blowing dust as well. Highs in the lower 50s. We go cooler with lighter winds for your Thursday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's. 2 for $6. The best deal in fast food. When you want the best deal on the best meal, choose Wendy's 2 for $6. Pick from Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece Crispy Nugs, or a medium strawberry lemonade. Pair any 2 for just $6. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org. Get your Cash Blitz scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery while you still can. It's the hot ticket you can enter to win a VIP iHeart trip and a shot to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge. Enter today at texaslottery.com.
When most people think of the Salem witch trials, they think of Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible. But the truth of what happened is a lot more complicated than Broadway. We'll have that story. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak. Just make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a taxi? 233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you.
Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your neighborhood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yes, we are back at it live in studio here today, doing our best to muddle through this show. Anyway, more of the comments coming in, including John Browsleton chiming in, saying that the Aggies' problem started with a change of coach and all the players leaving in the portal. The new coach had to come up with additional players from the portal who had problems with their old teams. It's a major problem with lower-level teams. Referring there to the transfer portal, if I'm not mistaken on there. Okay. We programmed some of the stuff on 1380, but there's a reason I wasn't the host of those shows over there. We had some regional and national hosts, sometimes local hosts on there as well, and I just kind of would comment as the guy that didn't know that much about sports. So, but I do recall that going by, as you were mentioning. So, I mean, a rebuilding year, but rebuilding does not necessarily guarantee the outcome of success, I guess, is the way it sounds like. So we'll see again what comes out of that meeting. Expected to be meeting the NMSU regents as of, well, in about 20 minutes, give or take, online. It's a closed-door meeting, so I'm sure we'll not be having major immediate live updates out of it, but maybe by the end of the show, I'm not going to hold my breath on that part about what the future of the team, coaches, etc. Let's just say it feels like a lot is probably on the chopping block. Speaking of what's on the idea of a chopping block anyway, there's a lot that's going to be coming up. Yes, there is already that next local election scheduled. We have a May ballot. If you all head over to one of my favorite websites, epcountyvotes.com, yes, they already have the countdown. We are 80 days, 13 hours, and 20 minutes. No, we're not going to bust out the election music just yet, but we do have a May 6th election day coming up. As noted by El Paso Matters, there is going to be a number of items on the ballot, including climate policy and police pensions. About a dozen items, give or take, are actually going to be on there. These were approved by City Council as of last week, and as a further note, as they put there, April 24th through May 2nd will be early voting, so we'll certainly talk more about it as we get closer to it. But a majority of City Council voting for it, including Reps Kennedy, Anello, Canales, Fierro, Salcido, and Rivera. Molinar was not present there. City Rep Cassandra Hernandez, the lone no vote against all of the recommendation, her quoted by El Paso Matters as saying, quote, "These practices are moving away from a city council, a council manager, rather, form of government, and we're slowly chipping away with some of these proposals." And it's an interesting, that was almost could be put forth as a subtext that was through a decent point of the city council positions that were up on the ballot anyway during this most recent November election. Sure, we talked a lot about some of the national, the statewide, and the local lists in state representatives, those kind of things. But we did, of course, pay attention to some of the hotter or more controversial, more contested city council elections, which did see, among other things, some sitting city council members no longer elected. And some of the ones the actual things that are on the ballots are, well, may sound familiar to longtime listeners of this show, including the climate charter done by the Sunrise El Paso group. Yep, that is going to be on the ballots. Specifically, that was going to be some of those the actual propositions and the way it'll be worked on there. The exact wording has not been released just yet, or at the very least isn't up and over there on over on the EP County Votes website. Ed Clora saying on May 6th is the Kentucky Derby priorities. Okay, fine. Watch the Derby. That's a morning event, if I'm not mistaken. I've never watched it live, but have often done the pieces around the coverage of it and where to get mint juleps in town. So I'm pretty sure that's a morning event, at the very least locally morning. So sure, go watch that or pay attention as much as you need to, and then go vote that day, or vote early and remove all conflict whatsoever. That's something I'll almost always end up suggesting. But so some of the things that are going to be on the ballot, including that potential climate charter, and there already are some, not going to exactly say parts of that in place, but similar-ish things, including El Paso Inc. has an interview with the first climate chief of El Paso in their most recent edition, Nicole Aldorete Ferrini. And they do point out that there are some questions about what that office and position will actually do. Basically, what it comes down to is the new head of the office saying that they're going to be spending the next 12 to 18 months developing the city's first climate action plan, but then the item's actually going to be on this, again, future ballot, the May ballot's going to potentially be a lot more expansive, as noted by El Paso Matters here. Proposed climate charter policy includes amendments to aim to reduce city emissions, invest in renewable energy, and create climate jobs, establish a climate department, create a ban on the sale or transfer of city-owned water for fossil fuel industry activities, and, quote, employing all available efforts, end quote, to convert El Paso Electric to a city-owned utility. So, yeah, that's some of the language there. But then there's, again, a better part of a dozen, if not more, other items, including changing the reporting structure of the chief internal auditor to be appointed and removed by and report to city council, and similar kind of things with the way reports are done, including financial audit and oversight committees, allowing city representatives to appoint and remove their district office staff, authorize city council to authorize leases of city-owned property for 40 years or less, allow the Civil Service Commission appointees to be residents of El Paso, and there's a lot of legalese in these. Some of the other most important ones anyway would be, and one that'll probably have a lot of contention around it, would be establish the city's contribution to the police and fire pension fund to be no less than 18% of the wages of the participants, and they remove the limit on the city's contribution. And actually, this one would affect these type of items going forward. Remove the requirements for a second petition in citizen-led initiatives and provide a procedure for citizens to initiate city ordinances. And also something about scheduling meetings by resolution, allowing the mayor to cancel a meeting if needed be for emergencies, and other kind of modernization, removing obsolete references as unaligned with requirements of state law, those kind of things here. So those are a few of the things, or at least in brief, as noted by, again, El Paso Matters here, of what will be going on to this May ballot. And I'm sure we'll be having a lot more discussion about it. This, of course, partially comes out of the whole ad hoc Charter Advisory Committee that had some interesting items on it that didn't end up making it onto this ballot, including the ones that would have potentially removed the mayor's veto. That had quite a story behind it last year, of course. And then also things like term limits and just other, basically more efforts that could be kind of categorized and grouped together as being maybe against or at least weakening the whole city manager form of government, and maybe moving further towards, or back towards, really, the strong mayor form of government. Now, that's not really, I mean, you could kind of read between the lines and group some things together and say, okay, is it more towards that or not? And again, Representative Hernandez essentially arguing that that is the case. But yeah, there's a whole lot more to come out of this. I would say some of the major ones I'm sure we'll be having a lot more discussion on, maybe revisiting with some previous guests on the show to see how they like what actually is coming forward with it and the way it's actually going to be put on the ballot. But once we get that language, I'm sure we'll be delving further into this, as well as James Holmes being very skeptical on the whole idea of the climate charter. John Brazelton very, very skeptical, saying another bunch of Biden want-to-bees. Haven't heard put it that way. And also Amber Bond chiming in with the rock on there. Appreciate that. So let's go ahead and take that next break of this hour. And so coming out of this break, as we usually do, and much appreciated by me at this point during the show, we are going to be opening up those phone lines. So if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents about these issues going on. Yes, some of y'all had mentioned stuff from last week that I've not been as able to follow up on. But if you want to get on the line, that number to do so, and lines are open now. The number is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still seen slowing in the downtown area on I-10 eastbound between Cotton and Paisano Drive. It's a 5-minute delay. The exit ramp is blocked in the lower valley off the loop, southbound 375 at Pan American Drive. An accident at Montana Avenue eastbound Geronimo. An injury accident, Zaragoza at Tierra Este slowing traffic, and a crash with injuries eastbound Montwood at Tim Foster Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing is committed to quality and printing perfect every time. Now at Staples, get $10 off your document printing and marketing materials order of $50 or more. Offer ends $225. See staples.com/stores/printbig for details. Try Staples and see the difference.
How a busy baker beat back foot pain. Meet Sanja.
Brownies, cupcakes, cookies. I love to bake. There have been times when I've been on my feet for at least 12 hours.
And that's how things went from sweet to sour.
I had excruciating pain in both feet to a point where I had to limp out of the kitchen.
So she called up a former foot pain sufferer, her big sister.
She told me, you need to go to the Good Feet store and get some arch supports.
Smart lady.
It was an awesome experience. Scott took great care of my feet.
He's the arch support specialist who fitted her.
He was very patient, very knowledgeable. Scott was the man.
Now Sanja can have her cake and bake it too.
Oh yeah, my feet are very happy now.
You're gonna have to make some cookies for Scott.
I've already done that.
Of course you did. See how arch supports work for you. Stop in or schedule your free fitting at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
He's been called the Vincent van Gogh of acting, and he was a leading man in the classic film The Godfather. We'll have the story of John Cazale. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, class, let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Of course, a lot of comments coming in through most of those dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate, including Sean Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Bernadette Bandicole. Helps with all those algorithmic things in furtherance of our mission to A, have live local talk radio here in the Borderland, and B, talk about the things that affect us here locally, because I still contend no one else is going to have that discussion like we do. People who live here, work, play, etc., spend our lives in this region, because a lot of people trying to tell us how we think, feel, etc., and that just never quite sit right with me. So that's why we keep doing that, and that's why we appreciate those. If you appreciate the ability to have that discussion, whether you like or not the specific subject we're getting into, plenty of the stuff that we end up talking about, I'm not totally a fan of, but hey, it's important to discuss. So if you like that, we appreciate those in turn. Of course, that's primarily from the Facebook, but if you're also looking on, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, those other pages, you're more than welcome to. We, of course, have those phone lines open now, full up at the moment, or we're full up. Looks like we maybe lost a caller there, but we do have, of course, the ability to call in 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Let's go with Jerry in the Northwest on the line with us here right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for taking my call, Andrew, and I'm glad you're doing better.
Better's can be expected anyway.
Okay, I haven't got a chance to read this article by El Paso Inc. completely yet, but from what I'm looking at, the goals and plans for the city's new climate and sustainability office, that sounds a lot like ESG to me. Just the wording of it sounds a lot like environmental, what is it called? Social and governance, environmental sustainability, social sustainability and governance, ESG,
right?
Which basically comes from what is that thing with brain lock again? The guy from Switzerland or Germany.
Oh, the World Economic Forum, I think you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Sounds a lot like it might be something from that same train of thought, where they're going to regulate certain things and not allow people to even have, like they're doing in California, they're not even allowed to mow their lawns with a powered, a gas-powered lawnmower. They have to use electrical lawnmowers and weed trimmers that are electric, and they can't burn charcoal anymore. They have to use propane for barbecues and such like that. That sounds a lot like what's going to happen here in El Paso if this goes through all the way.
So just to make it clear, there is a part that is already in place. So specifically, El Paso Inc. notes that this office, the appointment of, because Nicole Aldrete Ferrini was previously the city's chief resilience officer and was selected in this last week in order to be the climate and sustainability officer. Some of those recommendations, again, they're putting together their plan, how that'll work with the city in the next 12 to 18 months. But as is further noted by El Paso Inc. this came out of this most recent election, specifically those, what would be the right way, the bond amendments that were put forth there. So there are charter amendments that are coming up. So charter amendments, and then there was the bond vote that, what was the actual phrase for it? I'll have to pull it up here, so give me a second. But this one is already in place. So the ones that would be coming out of this, the charter amendments in the May, and just we had a question come out during the break about when those charter amendments would be on the ballot. The vote there is May 6th, with early voting going on April 24th through May 2nd. So we're, a couple couple of few months out from that at this point. But on that actual ballot, when it came to trying to pull up the actual language for it here, when it came to the city of El Paso, what was on there? Oh, shoot, that's the runoff election one. Okay, I'll have to get that answer after the break here. But this came out of the bond that was on the November ballot, is what this current office is being talked about.
Yes. Now, let me read something specifically from the individual, Nicole Alderete Ferrini, who was assigned to that position.
Sure.
Okay, she says, in a nutshell, our charge is going to be specifically addressing the impacts of global climate crisis as they relate to our urban desert environment and how they impact most vulnerable populations. So, like I'm saying, just like in California, I'm willing to bet $100 on this if they're going to try to get rid of our gas-powered lawnmowers and our gas-powered hedge trimmers and weed eaters and such like that. So that because they don't want all the pollution coming up, and even charcoal barbecues, you'll have to go with propane or something like that has less smoke. And I'm willing to put money on that they're going to try to do basically limit your ability to have fun, basically, or run things the way you want to run them on your own property.
Let me put it this way here. So, okay, fine, was able to pull up out of it the actual language of this last bond election, and it was the Proposition C, the $5.2 million general obligation bonds for, quote, renewable energy and resource use efficiency improvements and planning, and end quote, and then also talking about the taxes and bonds and interest related to it. So that's what this one is currently coming out. And the way she's kind of putting it, I guess, would be primarily like within the city, like how the city does business with other entities. And I mean, I'm not saying that what you're talking about is not necessarily at all a focus or a feature of that, but the major part of that, I would think, would come more from what is going to be on the ballot, the idea of the climate charter added to the city charter. So that's one I think we'll have to keep the eye on there.
Well, Andrew, those things I quoted to you were from her own words. All right. Again, I'll read it to you.
No, I heard you.
A charge. Our charge is going to be specifically addressing the impacts of global climate crisis as they relate to urban desert environment and how they impact vulnerable populations. So that's a very broad window there. Very broad.
No, certainly. And I get what you're saying there, and I understand your concerns. I'm just going to say the kind of rubber hitting the road on like what impacts your personal life, I would be looking more towards that, if that's what you're concerned about, towards the part that's going to be on this ballot. I mean, I guess you can see it two sides of the same coin, but in terms of like what will be allowed or not allowed in the city, kind of what you're getting to here, I see that as more on this coming ballot. So tell you what, appreciate the point in the call. We got to take that break right now in order to be able to hit the top of the hour and then come back and we'll get to more calls, all that good stuff. So again, appreciate that, but we got to end up taking that break. So we'll be doing more of that after this. So stay tuned. We're Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
It's slow on the spur from the Gateway to the Loop on Liberty Expressway, a 5-minute delay eastbound. Eastbound Montana is slowing down Geronimo to Zaragoza with 12-minute delays. Northbound McCombs at Sean Haggerty, there's an accident. Police still working on a crash eastbound Montana at Geronimo. And a heads up, South Desert Boulevard shutting down for road work tonight at 9 o'clock from Vinton to Trans Mountain. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Our iHeartRadio Podcast Awards are back. It's the biggest night of the year for podcast fans. Get ready to celebrate your favorites. Head to iHeart.com/podcast awards to check out the nominees for Podcast of the Year, Best Comedy, Crime, News, Sports, and more. Tuesday, March 14th, join us for our 2023 iHeartRadio Podcast Awards. Thank you. Audible is a proud sponsor of the Audible Audio Pioneer Award. From groundbreaking originals to best-selling audiobooks and the best and latest in podcasts, you'll find your next obsession at Audible, the home of storytelling. Try Audible free. Sign up at audible.com.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Officials at Michigan State University are identifying 3 victims who were shot and killed last night on campus, and all were from the Detroit area. Brian Frazier of Grosse Pointe, just east of Detroit, was a sophomore and was working at the Union when the gunman opened fire. The second victim was Alexandria Verner from Clawson, north of Detroit, and she was a junior at the university, while the third victim's name has not been publicly released. Interest rate hikes may end later this year. That's according to the president of the Philadelphia Federal Reserve. In remarks to LaSalle University, Patrick Harker said he believes it'll be time to let monetary policy do its work once a decision is made to end the rate hikes. The governor of Ohio is angry that trains that derailed in his state weren't considered high hazardous rail cars.
Frankly, if this is true, and I'm told it's true, this is absurd.
Republican Mike DeWine said he wants Congress to investigate. The Norfolk Southern Railway train derailed February 3rd. The number of Chinese attempting to illegally cross the U.S. southern border skyrocketed more than 1,000% in January. Tony Waterman reports.
For years, Border Patrol agents encountered only a couple dozen Chinese immigrants at the U.S. southern border each month. But last year, the numbers began creeping higher. Most of those caught are single adults who qualify for asylum, and they are released into the U.S. as they await their court date. According to reports, some of them are paying smugglers $35,000 to get them over the border.
New York Congressman George Santos is refusing calls to step down. In a tweet today, the embattled Republican posted, "I'm not leaving, I'm not hiding, and I'm not backing down." Santos still hasn't answered questions regarding campaign finances. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A bill that would make Kentucky a Second Amendment sanctuary state has passed a House committee. The measure would prohibit the enforcement of a federal ban or regulation of firearms.
It ensures that our local tax dollars won't be going to enforce Second Amendment issues that the federal government deems to be inappropriate.
That's the bill's sponsor, Republican Josh Bray. A similar bill was introduced last year. It passed the House but died in the Senate. An Iowa corporation and 4 of its managers are being ordered to pay millions of dollars in restitution to farmers. Investigators say Lynch Livestock of Wacoma defrauded more than $3 million out of Midwest livestock producers over 2 decades. An investigation found managers created false invoices and shredded or burned evidence of fraud. Love is in the air this Valentine's Day, especially at Times Square.
The crossroads of the world was just as busy as any other day, and yet it's the place where Kristen and Jesus from Brooklyn chose to tie the knot.
It was this or Disney World, so you can top this one for sure.
Some people randomly wandered up to the Love in Times Square event. Melanie from London enchanted.
It's really lovely. It's really romantic. It's really sweet that they've wanted to share the day with loads of people, and it's really fun to be part of it.
It's all through the Times Square Alliance, and this year's partner Mintage is also helping at least 100 couples renew their vows this Valentine's Day. I'm Natalie Migliori, New York.
The 2023 NFL Draft is coming, and the order of first-round picks is now set after the conclusion of the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs will pick last in the first round, and they'll also be hosting the draft in late April. The Philadelphia Eagles, who lost in the Super Bowl, will have the 10th and 30th overall picks. Other teams with 2 first-round selections include the Detroit Lions and Seattle Seahawks. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Money. That's money. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Hip, knee, or back pain? See if Arch Supports can help you at the Good Feet store.
Hey El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you El Paso and surrounding areas for helping us be number one again in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in January. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings in all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months, and as always, exceptional trade-in offers.
Trade and upgrade for less during the President's Day sales event going on now at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. For limited time, get 0% interest for 72 months on new 2022 quad cab Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on new 2022 crew cab Ram trucks. Get $2,000 off MSRP and 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredos. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. At Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 1.9% APR is $14.48 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
And now for today's Roblox winter weather alert. iHeartland on Roblox has been walloped by a winter snowstorm. It is a winter wonderland. You can now ice skate at State Farm Park. In State Farm Neighborhood, you can compete in snowball fights, grab a hot cocoa and cookies, and more. There's also special events from your favorite artists and podcasters all month, along with scavenger hunts, exclusive content, and unique items. So enjoy the festive winter weather at iHeartland on Roblox. Head to iHeartRadio.com/iHeartland today.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk, a lot of ways to get at us. Of course, we have that phone line open right now as well. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. is the number to call if you so choose to do so. I mean, just got to keep it clean if you want to chime in on the things that we got going on, the things that we are delving into, and a lot of commentary coming in also online, including over on our various social medias, again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, particularly on the facebook.com/Talk El Paso on Hel Rueda, on the idea of there being any potential restrictions, whether or not they're actually like in writing so far yet, on burning of things, saying that's got to blow. I use my outdoor fireplace a bunch. And also being echoed by some others saying, what's the point if they still burn pallets and waters for heat and things like that, and, cross-border considerations. And James Radcliffe asking very pointedly, so when do we get to sue? Okay, if you're wondering about implementation of it and like what the sue on, I think that you would have a hard time doing it based on the existence of this, again, what's the actual name of the office? It's no longer sustainability. It's the climate chief, and that whole office, I would say there's probably argumentation that it was justified under that ballot that just went through. Again, item C on the bond that happened in November, so $5.2 million that have been done there. Maybe you get closer to it if you're really interested in doing so once they put out their recommendations, because that'll take about 12 to 18 months. So that would probably be closer to when rubber could hit the road, legally speaking. Maybe after this May vote, if it ends up going through the El Paso Climate Charter, that might get you a little bit closer to it. But finding the standing, well, not even just the standing, but the justification for saying, well, what this is in violation of, there's one thing that stands out to me, because as we were having that whole conversation end of last hour, came to mind here is that on the idea of ESG, that there was a, well, if not a actual in law, a de facto ban in place. And yeah, from the Texas Tribune back in August of last year, Texas bans local and state government entities from doing business with firms that quote unquote boycott fossil fuels. So kind of a mention, kind of backwards way of the idea of a ESG ban. This was more in policy, because it wasn't actually, it was a decision made by Texas Controller of Public Accounts, Glenn Hagar, saying that under a 2021 state law, and so certain industries, or some of the ones that were noted here. BlackRock Inc., Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. They were banned from entering into most contracts with state and local entities after Hagar's office said the firms, quote unquote, boycott the fossil fuel sector. So that might be kind of sideways to it, but of course that's about local governments or state government and agencies contracting with firms that have that. Don't know if it could apply to this situation if you were interested in doing so, but maybe we'll do a little bit of research and delve further into that for future shows. So what you really need to know right now is that, yes, we have that vote on this and about a dozen other items. That's as soon as we get the actual language out of what's on the ballot, I'll be, as I kind of recreationally do, checking the epcountyvotes.com. And you can certainly do so as well, as we're now 80 days, 12 hours, and 49 minutes away from that next actual election day. Again, early voting going on starting in late April. Just, yeah, I would encourage everyone to check it because it never hurts to know what the heck is going on with what happens when you go to the ballot box. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call if you want to, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. And James Holmes actually also one quick comment there saying it will be the worst thing that can happen to this city. They claim we don't have enough money to provide the things we already need. Duh. Maybe it should have been a but either way might work there if that's your perspective on it. Anyway, getting back to those phone lines, we do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call. I just want to make a couple of comments on some testimony that the former chief, Gloria Chavez, and a Tucson agent did in front of Congress a couple of weeks ago. And they were talking about the 10,000 cartel drones that have crossed into the United States last year. And she was stating that the cartels have unlimited resources to keep these drones going, and they use those as a way to smuggle in more people away from where the Border Patrol are being distracted to. And he indicated that in the Tucson area where he is from, he said that the cartels are driving the chaos at the border. They control the crossings, and they're forcing Border Patrol to react to the smugglers' tactics. So that's exactly what's happening in the Rio Grande Valley. So they both indicated that the dangers of these cartels and what they're doing, they adapt to everything. And we've spoken about that before.
Certainly.
But then I was reading about the Biden administration removing 8 of these surveillance balloons that we have on the southern border. We apparently have 12 of them, but they're going to remove 8 of them. And the reason they're removing it, they're saying, is because they don't have the money to fund them. I believe it's all about optics. Removing these drones are going to misstate actually the gotaways. It's going to understate the gotaways, because that's how I'm reading the article. That's what I got from it. I gleaned from it. That we are able to tell the gotaways, some of them, the ones we see, through the surveillance balloons. So the president says they don't have the money for them. But if you'll remember at the State of the Union address, he said, give us the money so we can get the resources to get the equipment that they need to do their job. Well, here we have 12 surveillance balloons that have been in operation since 2013. And he's taking them away. And Border Patrol is just all upset about it. They say that these specifically are going to reduce the gotaways because they will no longer have access to see what's going on the ground from 3,000 feet up. So I'm thinking, okay, he says they don't have the money for these. But think about it. He's found, what, $196 billion for Ukraine? He took $2 billion from COVID for illegal immigration. He took $130 million from the VA for illegal immigration. He found $340 million for flights to fly them all over the United States. And he found $86 million for room and board everywhere. So this idea that we don't have the money is false. They just don't want to have the surveillance. So he could continue this aerial surveillance, which is so important to the Border Patrol, if he wanted to, but they choose not to. So he is turning over, well, we already know that the cartel has operational control of the border. He's turning over 100% of the border by taking this away from our Border Patrol. They have such few resources. And now the Biden administration decides they don't have the money for these important surveillance balloons. they want to implode our country. They don't want to stop this illegal immigration. And then another thing that they did, and I'm questioning who wrote the apps for this CBP-1 program, and who wrote the apps so that the Mexican government can access our Customs Border Patrol data portals and pre-approve individuals in Mexico in 5 different locations. And very interestingly, Fox sent in someone over the weekend to one of these shelters where they're using the CBP-1 app. And we all know that it was supposed to be for Venezuela, Nicaragua, the Cubans, and the Haitians. Well, what they found is Russians are using the app, Ukrainians are using the app, Indians are using the app, and people from Africa are using the app. A gentleman there at the shelter stated that smuggling has been increased since the app went into effect. More people are coming into their city to learn how to use it. So my question is, where is the safety switch, or whatever you want to call it, on these apps that won't allow anybody from countries outside of Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Haiti to use these apps to come into the United States? And then you hear that Chinese illegal crossings have increased 1,000%. I mean, this is all alarming. And then we wonder why President Biden doesn't get in front of the camera. The answer is because he doesn't have to, because he doesn't want to, and because nobody holds him accountable. He is covered by the media. He's covered by the Democratic Party. And so he walks around like nothing's happening to our country. He's oblivious as to what's happening here at the border. And everybody's satisfied with it. I don't understand the mentality. And I'm wondering, El Paso, are you awake? El Paso, are you going to do something in 2024? El Paso, where's your voice right now? We are losing our country slowly. And every time he does something like this, El Paso, are you aware? I mean, we need to be aware. We're right here with the cartels. And it's just amazing to me that every week something like this is happening in our country. I mean, look at what he did with the balloons up there. They let China go from one end of the country to the other, and then they shoot balloons, 3 right on the spot. And they miss one, and they can't find the missile that took it down. We have a lot of questions to ask this president that walks around, and he doesn't even go to the camera, and nobody holds him accountable.
You brought up a lot there, so let me try to break some of this down. Yeah, we're referring to there, some of you all have been sending me articles as well. I try to review them as much as possible, this weekend being more than a little bit of a fluke for me and not having brain space. Anyway, the aerostats, what you're talking about, these kind of fixed tethered balloons. So let's make a distinction between balloons we've been talking about lately. We do have the Chinese balloons, the traveling balloons, as opposed to the fixed balloons, the ones you're referring to, at least at the start there, the fixed balloons, and so most commonly known as aerostats because they're static, if you want to try to break down the name. I actually saw one of those some years ago. They're not really present in our region. I guess maybe we have too high of winds or just not as useful. We have a lot of ground-based sensors in our areas. You can see that. Go down Paisano or Doniphan, particularly, near the former Asarco site, and you can see decent amount of those. But I saw one out towards like Fort Huachuca, Douglas, Arizona way when I was out there years ago. Pretty sizable thing. And for anyone that's like a history buff or has seen, I guess what now be called period pieces from World War II, the whole idea of barrage balloons being out there and things like that, they kind of look like that, except they have quite a sophisticated sensor suite kind of underslung on them. So they're not some kind of be this like aerial fence preventing planes from coming across, like was the point during World War II, but there to do extra sensing like you're talking about. And yeah, the idea of about 8 out of, let's call it a dozen or so, because some of the total numbers out of there are not entirely clear of not being available anymore. Yeah, that y'all been sending that to me, and I've been reading up a bit on that. And then on the CBP-1 app, who's developing it there? It's listed at least on the Google Play Store, has been being developed by U.S. Customs and Border Protection itself here. So CBP itself, as opposed to another developer on its hand of it, at the very least, CBP listed as an active developer on that platform. So it may have been developed, quote unquote, indigenously, like within the agency itself. So it doesn't look like it was contracted, at least from the immediately available information, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Angel Rueda also saying that there is one aerostat on New Mexico Highway 9 close to Columbus. I guess I haven't been out quite that far to have seen that one. The one I can recall seeing was out to Arizona way, so south of Tucson, kind of like what we're talking about there. But I will say this, that, I mean, yeah, there's been the focus on and congressional votes being posited when it comes to the idea of the funding coming through this, and why I think that, at the very least, kind of coming out of the State of the Union speech, that might be one of the more actionable parts, or the very least a part that I would hope they would take up. But given the whole, just the way things are going right now, and just the state of Washington, let's just put it that way, but then also the kind of consideration when it comes to what is going on in the airspace. So just on your last comment there, was one I was reading up on, because the fact that while I was out of my mind being sick, that there were 4 of these things coming over, or at least 4 in like within this month. Some of them looking like aerial interception is ineffective. So there was one missile that was shot at the one over the Great Lakes, I believe, Huron, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the missiles did not hit the targets. What's being reported nationally anyway, is that it did not detect the target, so never armed itself. So that missile probably fell into the Great Lakes, never to be seen again, but the other one did impact. That's my understanding of this currently. So I'm not saying any of these are a good situation, but that's my understanding of them currently.
Yes, it's just frightening that everybody's so complacent and the president walks around so oblivious of the dangers that he's causing our country. It just alarms me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of serious stuff here, and as you're kind of giving the reference to the 2024 elections, certainly something we'll be keeping our eye on, but also those upcoming May ones locally will be definitely a focus of ours. So I appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls, we got more comments, we got more things that we will be getting to, as we usually do that at this point during the program. So again, if you want to get on that line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. You're on News Radio 690 KTSN. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No major new crashes on your El Paso freeways. A lot slowing though. I-10 eastbound from Dallas south to Yarborough, it's a 10-minute delay. On the spur eastbound Liberty Expressway from the Gateway out to the Loop, it's a 9-minute delay. Eastbound Montana, Hawkins to Zaragoza is a 12-minute backup. And an accident on McCombs northbound at Sean Haggerty is slowing traffic. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Welcome to the CPAP Games live from the Hayes bedroom. It's another eventful night, Bruce.
It sure is, Ron. Steve has been struggling with his CPAP.
His wife, Michelle, is trying to contain her rage.
Michelle throws an elbow.
She's leaving for the couch.
Steve should get Inspire.
Absolutely, Bruce. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that gives you comfortable, restful sleep with the click of a remote. There's no mask and no hose. Just sleep.
Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
It's time to think about your tax refund. And Jackson Hewitt wants you to think biggest. As in, we guarantee you'll get your biggest refund or your money back plus $100. Who offers that? Come to think of it, nobody. It's one of the biggest guarantees out there and why you can't just file with anybody. For your guaranteed biggest refund, go to Jackson Hewitt today. Your wallet will thank you. When every dollar matters, it matters who does your taxes.
This week, Staples has deals so good, you're going to want to sit down. Are you sitting? I'll wait. Great. Right now during Staples Sit-a-thon, select chairs are up to 50% off, like the Union and Scale Essentials Mesh Back Task Chair, now just $89.99 at Staples. You save $90. Plus, get 2 2-ounce bottles of Purell hand sanitizer, free with the Staples Connect app. So take a seat or 2 right now at Staples, the working, learning, and saving store. Ends 2/18. In-store only. Purell Limit 2 while supplies last.
Want to know what I like best about high school sports? I love watching my son run on the field. I love seeing him smile when he high-fives his teammates. I love seeing his eyes light up when his team scores a goal. I love the fact that since he's been playing high school sports, he's making better decisions. And I love knowing that high school sports have never been safer. Why? Because coaches have more information than they've ever had. Training techniques are more sophisticated, and equipment has never been more advanced. Playing high school sports isn't just safe. It's still the best way to give your teenager a healthy head start in life. And that's something I really love.
This message about the value of high school sports is presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
Most of the time, traffic is pretty good. But there are times when traffic can be pretty bad. No, I mean like really bad. Almost, but more like an asteroid's gonna hit the city and everyone's trying to get out of town at once and nobody's car is moving and people are running down the highway clutching their kids and whatever belongings they can grab. Yep, now you got it. It's times like these you need your severe traffic station. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days. A lot of comments coming in over the social media. Try to delve into those here, including, who was it there? Bernadette Vandercall saying, oh, it's the El Paso I bueno mentality or the y pues que apathy. Mañana attitude, I call it a lot of it here. I don't think the lithium in the water helps, but anyway, a lot of other comments coming in here on putting about the idea of the aerostats or the balloons, among other things. So keep those going over there. One coming in right now, including Ronaldo Rivera saying, asking me directly, Andrew, I'm puzzled as to why voters complain year-round and stampede, pushing others out of the way to the polls to be the first to vote for the politician that created the problems we have. Perhaps a study could explain this bizarre mentality in El Paso. I don't know about specifically locally, but I got to tell you, it's not a solely local phenomenon, particularly if you're talking congressionally. We've talked about this a few times here, but unless you're thinking about it, how it affects you specifically, it could seem a bit apocryphal. But the whole people hate Congress and love their congressperson. Again, in aggregate, I'm not saying that you have to or definitely do love any of our elected officials. In fact, I think the idea of loving an elected official is a little bit backwards at the very beginning of the supposition there, because they work for us. Like, that's the entire point. Politicians are our employees, and anyone saying, oh no, I love them and I'll follow them anywhere is kind of missing the point in my mind. I've just never gotten the whole cult of personality. Like, if you like a person and you want to vote for them, you like their policies, go right ahead, do your thing. But if you're saying that, oh no, they can do no wrong, you think you're missing several points of importance along the way there, because they are both hired by and accountable to us. That's the entire point. Anyway, James Holmes pointing out used to be all the straight party ticket voters, and yet I knew that that change happened. What was it? It was like before or around 2020 here in Texas. Anyway, the change for that, and I'm not sure there's been that appreciable of a difference. Frankly, if anything, I actually need to say I think I've seen studies on this, or at the very least, I've had some conversations with people that do pay attention to this a little bit more closely than I do. Which, yes, they're out there. That is not maybe not so much that there are less people that are still voting for the like top of ballot races as much as there are a whole lot more undervotes. So if you ever look on the actual EP County Votes website, you'll see like the total amount of voters. That's where we get our percentages that we talk about here, and those depressing single digit ones that we get just way too often. In any case, the actual undervotes is where someone just straight up didn't tick that box on the ballots. Just like, I don't know, I don't care. I mean, I don't know their reasoning. This is me guessing, and hopefully I'm wrong. I mean, I'd love for it to be a principled thing. I mean, at least they're at the polls, which is better than literally most of the eligible public in El Paso. But point is, to the actual initial question about why people say, I hate everything, and then the people keep getting reelected, that's a nationwide phenomenon. Everyone hates Congress. Everyone loves their congressperson, because you see it that the Congress approval ratings are, well, nearing single digits themselves. Like, no one's like, yeah, Congress, great. Well, there's like 5 people out there, maybe. And they keep reelecting their congressperson because it's all them other SOBs, not my SOB kind of mentality, I guess is what it comes down to. So if you're wanting to look at and changing that locally, organizing people and going out to the polls, it's not sexy. It's not the most rage and rah kind of thing, but, well, it is what it is there. Anyway, Haida Beza Gardner also chiming in with us. Hello, and appreciate you chiming and tuning in as well. Let's get back to those phone lines now. Of course, that number to call if you want to get on the line is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And Louis Panada getting a little impatient. Do you have callers? Yes, but we also get comments on the line that we like talk back and forth to. So I still think you're a little unclear on the concept there, my dude. Anyway, we do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrew. This climate charter, it is cause for concern because, as we're seeing throughout the United States, some of these big Democratic cities and even smaller ones, number one, there is the initiative to try to get rid of gas stoves. What's next? You can't have a gas-fired furnace, cannot have other type of appliances that do not conform to clean energy.
Sure, yeah, and yeah, we've seen nationally anyway some of these things come up by, I mean, we got what is it about the gas powered stoves like you talked about, and other ideas along that. I mean, anytime I really hear this idea of green energy that doesn't then involve like nuclear power, I'm often like, okay, are we looking at this reasonably, or are we looking at this politically? And often comes out on the latter part of that equation, in my mind anyway.
Yes, correct. That is correct. I do have to agree 100% with Barbara also, switching tracks for a minute.
Sure.
I think as I have said before, you can publish volumes of what is not said. And I think besides the local immigration or the national immigration advocacy groups, I think Biden is being heavily influenced also by López Obrador.
Yeah, I mean, the whole subject of AMLO, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president of Mexico currently you're talking about, ends up, I feel like, sure, there are some reasonable things to be discussed out, but given just that dude's demeanor and persistence with it, it just gets into bag of cats territory. But yes, I imagine that interplay between the two countries and the leaders of that are well, at least the driving force behind part of this whole back and forth, the way the differences between administrations, those kind of things. It's a rabbit hole to fall down anytime I start looking into it, honestly.
Well, yes. And let me tell you, I'll say it right out, and I don't care who or I offend, but López Obrador, he's a Marxist, okay, progressive Marxist. And there's been several articles, one of them was from Reuters, where he heavily encouraged Latino voters here in the United States to vote against candidates who were for border security.
I've seen mentions of that here. I mean, the actual ability of him to impact that all is I mean, there's an argument to be made there, and I get what you're coming at it from there. But I mean, his policies are, I feel like he has some stated ones, but they often seem to change depending on his mood. Loose cannon is the phrase I often think about most in the back of my head when it comes to him, because he may even espouse those, but then sometimes he may be accusing the media in his country of leading a coup against him because they disagree with him, that kind of stuff. So I guess I don't have any like firm ideas of he's totally one thing or the other, because it's too ephemeral, honestly.
Well, yes, but I do think his approach to border crime and and the smuggling deal has been lackadaisical. I mean, practically nothing. His policy is, as we've discussed before. Yeah, you can go. You can come in our country and go, as long as you don't stop. Go to the United States border. That's no type of policy to have. As I said before, if we get I think the current Congress should cut off funds to the Mexican government, all economic aid, until they get their act together. That'll really cause a stir.
Yeah, well, we've had some discussion about that. I think there are some maybe more effective ways it could be done, not necessarily to Mexican government itself here, but of putting pressure on the general public, or at least the portion that receives those remittances. But here's why I don't see that happen. As much as it comes up in, like, say, the omnibus spending bills or any of these bills that involve, foreign funding, what's the reference I feel like people make most time? Gender studies in Pakistan, sure, may be a shorthand version, but there's a lot of other things in there and around this of support to countries that may or may not actually end up like supporting us. But I think there's kind of a misconception wherever it comes to that. It's not you like us and you'll do what you want us to, so therefore we're going to give you money. It's we want some kind of influence on you, therefore we are going to give you money so that we can at least use leverage on that. But that also kind of ends up only being short term. Like if you pull that funding immediately, they might be like, okay, fine, we'll go with you for the meantime. But if we were to pull it just like overall, they'd be immediately shopping around and probably be very happy to, and will be offered very happily from China. They're very much interested in providing that soft power, that support. And they have been, the Chinese government, that is, amazing at then using that and leveraging that even further. Can be seen kind of writ large on the continent of Africa, at the very least within many of the individual countries, and including the African Union. So that's why I wouldn't hold my breath on that particular avenue that you're discussing there being actually utilized.
Granted, not only China, but you also have to worry about Comrade Putin.
I mean, yeah, I will say that, I mean, Putin and his proclivities, just all of it is another whole bag of cats on its own level. But China has been its whole Belt and Road Initiative. They're very much willing to let, at least in my analysis, Russia be the bellicose partner, and them being the good cop, bad cop almost kind of relationship is how I see it.
That's true. Very, very true. But anyway, I digress. Andrew, I turn the mic back over to you, and thank you for allowing me to give my opinion.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for doing so, and I appreciate the point in the call.
Take care.
All right, and with that, let's go ahead. Overdue for that next break right now. We got more calls we'll get to after this break. Yes, this is brought up. If you want to call in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. The future of NMSU's men's basketball coach remains uncertain following hazing allegations by 3 players. The NMSU Board of Regents has scheduled a closed-door meeting for today to discuss personnel matters. NMSU decided to cancel the men's basketball season after allegations surfaced last week of a player being subjected to hazing that was sexual in nature. That unidentified player has said he does not want to press charges, but the investigation investigation continues. KFOX 14 has obtained the arrest affidavit for the two people arrested in connection to a dog attack in Tornillo. Deputies arrested 45-year-old Felix Castillo and 24-year-old Deborah Castillo on Saturday. The incident happened on January 30th. During the investigation, deputies learned that a pit bull and a bulldog attacked an elderly woman and bit her several times on her face, legs, and arms. According to authorities, the dogs had been mentioned in several previous reports. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Slow traffic on the I-10 from downtown out to the East Valley, Dallas Street to Yarborough. It's a 15-minute delay. On the spur eastbound Liberty Expressway from the Gateway to the Loop, it's a 10-minute backup. Northbound Mesa Street from the downtown exits up to Red, 8-minute delays. And El Paso police still working an earlier crash, McCombs northbound at Sean Haggerty Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Weather-warned day for our Wednesday. For tonight, wind advisory until midnight. That then becomes a high wind warning midnight all the way through 5 p.m. on Wednesday. So very windy conditions Wednesday. Could see some gusts over 60 miles per hour. Watch out for areas of blowing dust as well. Highs in the lower 50s. We go cooler with lighter winds for your Thursday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be number one again in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in January. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings in all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months, and as always, exceptional trade-in offers.
Trade and upgrade for less during the President's Day sales event going on now at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For limited time, get 0% interest for 72 months on new 2022 Quad Cab Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on new 2022 Crew Cab Ram trucks. Get $2,000 off MSRP and 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredos. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. At Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 1.9% APR is $14.48 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Get your Cash Blitz scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery while you still can. It's the hot ticket you can enter to win a VIP iHeart trip and a shot to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge. Enter today at texaslottery.com.
Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now, as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in Texas did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
This message presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
We parents hear our kids say lots of things that can get us pretty worked up. Things like,
"Look, Ma, no hands."
And,
"Ouch, that hurts."
look, you'll never completely stop worrying about your kids. But you can breathe a little easier with free or low-cost health insurance through Medicaid and CHIP programs in your state. The truth is, they're covering more kids and teens than ever before. So even if you've applied in the past, even if you don't qualify, your kids can now be eligible for regular doctor and dentist visits, prescriptions, and more. So the next time you hear,
"Ooh, I don't feel so good,"
relax, your kids can be covered.
Get us kids covered today. Families of 4 earning up to $49,200 a year or more may qualify. Just go to insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. That's 1-877-543-7669. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Already almost the way through this show, but we'll take another call or two here if you want to get on the line. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of stuff we're getting to here today, but a lot of comments also on there. Again, I'm not saying that you have to love any elected official. I'm just saying in aggregate that when it comes to the behavior of voters, not even just locally, but nationwide, people tend to not be willing to get rid of their elected official. Though El Paso has been a fluke in its own way. You go back to when it was Sylvester Reyes was I forget how many terms he was in. He was a senior member at that point. 6 comes to mind, though I'm not willing to stand behind that without actually looking it up. And then O'Rourke ended up unseating him in the primary without like a major scandal. So sometimes things work differently. I know there's a lot of like anecdotal about people crossing over, but from what I've seen, it doesn't necessarily support that, as opposed to the people who are actually engaged and involved in our area making or wanting to make a change. So anytime people bring up the idea of any other factors besides apathy or the lack thereof, but it's usually just apathy being the major play in our area, I just got to say, if you're not focused on the voter turnout rates as kind of anything you're talking about whenever it comes to local elections, you're just it's ego stroking at that point. Because I think like, well, what I want, because here's the thing, politics doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about how strongly you believe something. It cares about what you've done, so to speak. We're not talking about an actual entity here. We're talking about what can be seen in the polls. So if you're not going out, fundraising, door knocking, staffing campaigns, putting yourself on the ballot itself, it kind of just doesn't work that way. It's not a hopes and dreams. If it was a skiff, I could float it up as a river, as my 5th grade teacher used to say. Anyway, let's go to those phone lines right now. I'll get at least one more on the line here. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
That's just hilarious. I just heard bewildered Barbara going on again. You cannot get over this stuff. You know, always with the negative vibes, Barbara. Always with the negative vibes. That's a play on that great TV movie, Kelly's Heroes. Oddball, getting on Sergeant Moriarty. He's always negative. And that's bewildered Barbara. Why don't you talk about the evil? You always talk about Joe Biden and how terrible he is, but you never talk about the Duddy-Don't-Talk doofus, or that guts guy from Florida, or that nut job in Colorado, what's her name, Lauren Boebert, or anybody else like that. You're always beating up on Joe Biden, who's trying to do the best thing he can for the United States of America. Give it up, Barbara. Give it up. Now, let me say this. This is horrible. Again, another shooting, another mass murder thing, or maybe not mass, but a lot of people killed. This is nuts. This has got to be fixed. This is outrageous. We're not even in 2 months in the new calendar year, and we're already up to 67, I think that's the number, murders and stuff. Something needs to be done about this. This is insanity. This is not a civilization, Andrew, and everybody else out there in the Southwest Puerto Rico. What is the matter with you nut job humans out there? And that's my opening comment.
I think we're referring to the Michigan incident. That was still some information unfolding about that as of this afternoon, as I was checking.
Yes, exactly what I'm
Okay.
saying. That's just one of many. What is this nut? What is going on with the civilization? I don't even want to call it civilization, but what is going on with the average thought process of so many humans in our nation that got to pick up a weapon and start blasting away at everybody? What is this stupid nonsense? That's my point.
And I get what you're saying in general and the idea of it. The problem I keep coming down to is here the things that are put forth on it as the potential solutions, because none of these things, however you catalog them, however you put them forth here, and yeah, I know all the arguments when it relates to the numbers, particularly on whether it's mass shootings, whether it involves something or not, on the idea of school shootings, whether it was something that's happened in the parking lot unrelated to students or whatnot, or the idea that, gun violence numbers in general may include things where it was a defensive use or, say, self-unaliving is the way I think I need to put that for our social media users to not get this stream removed from them. In any case, I'm aware of all those efforts, and none of those things are good. Let me just make that perfectly clear. None of those things are, oh, well, we shouldn't worry about that. They all should be worried about, but the problem I keep coming down to here is on the ways that they're put forth here, including the assault weapons ban that's being suggested, wouldn't effectuate that. I mean, among other things, at least some of the initial stuff I saw something coming out about the whole Michigan situation is that the dude lied, and he had been under protective orders. He may have been under what could be considered red flag, which has been put forth as kind of the most recent effort before this, though that was before the whole renewed assault weapons ban has begun percolating through Congress again. I still don't expect that to actually make its way through this congressional session, but again, they all end up falling flat for me because they don't actually end up dealing with the core of the situation of a person having an implement and committing a crime with it. I mean, until we get to the idea of like, what was it from the movie? I'm forgetting, Minority Report, the whole precog of starting it before it happens. I mean, an object is an object until someone puts their will onto it. And at that point, if they're using it for a crime, the crime is also already illegal. And that's why, though it comes up most commonly, is the idea of, okay, removing the supply of it, which I don't think that the actual efficacy of the efforts, the way they've been put forth of, well, what would actually do, you can kind of see it when it comes to the idea of like gun buybacks or other stuff like that. And even then, there are still crimes happening in the area where this happens. So even lessening the supply won't necessarily really accomplish it, except for those that had no intention or going to be a part of it in any case before those points, before a crime was committed.
Well, you're right. And so many things that you just said there. You covered a lot of territory. But there's 300 million something people, and we got like 600 million guns in the United States of America. The Second Amendment stuff, blah, 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 and all this kind of thing, yippee-yay, and all that kind of thing. But wait a minute. Now, the world, the normal world is laughing at us. What is the matter with you Americans out there? You're blasting away at everybody because you're mad because somebody stepped on your toe at Albertsons or some supermarket, and you got to blast them away. What kind of stupid nonsense is that? This is unbelievable. I can't even think straight and talking to you. And by the way, before I get off the phone, take care of yourself, Andrew. Don't get sick, okay?
I appreciate
All
that.
right?
I mean, I am still, as much as we put ourselves out as authoritative or what have you online and on air here, still human, still subject to the conditions that come along with that. But we're getting better here. We managed to make it through this show all right, and hopefully we'll be able to continue so throughout the rest of the week. So appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right, take care, Andrew. You're a good man.
I appreciate it. And we'll keep talking about these things here. So, too, we got to take that next break right now in order to come back. Till we got coming up for you on the show, as well as then close out this one. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound still looking slow from downtown Dallas Street exit out to Yarborough with a 15-minute delay. Slow on the spur eastbound from the Gateway to the Loop, 12-minute backup. The exit ramp is still blocked in the lower valley on Loop 375 southbound at the Pan American Drive exit. And slow down for a crash on northbound McCombs at Sean Haggerty Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
This week, Staples has deals so good, you're going to want to sit down. Are you sitting? I'll wait. Great. Right now during Staples Sit-a-thon, select chairs are up to 50% off, like the Union and Scale Essentials Mesh Back Task Chair, now just $89.99 at Staples. You save $90. Plus, get 2 2-ounce bottles of Purell hand sanitizer, free with the Staples Connect app. So take a seat or 2 right now at Staples, the working, learning, and saving store. Ends 2/18. In-store only. Purell Limit 2 while supplies last.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. And more stuff we got coming up for you this week, including more discussion about the things affecting us here in the Borderland, including some of those let's call them statewide efforts and initiatives. We got the legislative session going on, got more hopefully getting on the calendar for y'all when it comes to talking with our local delegation, but also at least one, including some response back and forth on some of what Governor Greg Abbott has put into place, including when it comes to hiring for state agencies. Yeah, I'm sure that one won't be controversial at all. But then also just a whole lot more, including we got stuff we're looking into on the whole. Some of y'all brought up to me the idea of AI discussions, what the way things are moving might mean, not even just for like academics, but for like our life and society in general. So just a few of the topics here, but again, gonna hopefully stay strong, knock on wood, throughout the rest of this week, and then keep doing what we do best, hopefully anyway, which is having the discussion about the things that affect us here in the Borderland. So we'll have to leave it there for today because we are out of time. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show in any way. I do appreciate it, because if you want to talk about the things that affect us here in the Borderland, you're in the right places. We do it every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound still looking slow from downtown Dallas Street exit out to Yarborough with a 15-minute delay. Slow on the spur eastbound from the Gateway to the Loop, 12-minute backup. The exit ramp is still blocked in the Lower Valley on Loop 375 southbound at the Pan American Drive exit. And slow down for a crash on northbound McCombs at Sean Haggerty Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you El Paso and surrounding areas for helping us be #1 again in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep